welcome everyone to our CGI Women in Tech Career Lab. My name is Sonia Pecora, Director of Talent Acquisition for CGI Canada. I'm so happy to be here today to celebrate International Women's Day and to kickstart our CGI Women in Tech Career Lab, which will be held on March 13th and 14th, both in English and French. Next week, the sessions will cover a variety of different topics. I think we've got about a total of 8 different types of topics covering how women take their place in tech, seizing different opportunities, the power of mentorship and sponsorship, leading women in AI, and much, much more. At the end of this session today, we will have a QR code at the end and where you can register and sign up for the specific event that we'll have next week. So for today's session, we do ask that each of you please put in some questions in the chat. I have a team that's there answering the questions as well. Leslie and I will try to answer some here today live for you. So now let's get to our session. I am here today with our amazing CIO, Leslie. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for helping me to kick off the first ever CGI Women Tech Lab that we have. So Leslie, tell me a little bit about yourself, your journey, who you are.
That would probably take up the whole call, Sonia, but so I've been working in tech. My whole career has been in tech. So I started right out of school, working at Bell Canada as a developer. And then I've kind of taken on many roles since then. So throughout my career, always, I think looking for new opportunities and challenging myself is kind of one of the things that I'll probably talk about a couple of times today. So I get bored easily, and so I'm always kind of changing. But started as a developer, moved on to doing systems analysis and design, and then project management, and then moving up into leadership. So director, vice president. I had roles in operations. I had roles supporting our clients' operations. And then roles, I was in the CIO office a couple of years ago, left, played the account exec role for a couple of the large accounts in Canada, and then back to the Global Delivery Center. So I was leading those for a bit in Quebec, and now I'm back to the CIO. So I had a tremendous career, moved around quite a bit. So I started in Montreal, spent some time in Ottawa, back to Montreal. Oh, actually, Ottawa to Toronto, back to Montreal, to Ottawa, back to Montreal. So I did have flexibility to move around, and that also helped, I think, with some of the career opportunities that came about through that time. So
you had different careers within just CGI. Same employer, but different opportunity.
Yeah, pretty much. And a lot within CGI, I think a lot of those opportunities were, it's some people say it's the right place at the right time. I think it's also has a lot to do with flexibility and looking at opportunity from the perspective of being willing to take on the change, right? Being excited about change or looking forward to change. And then, of course, the company is very supportive when you do need to move or want to move, because I had a family. And so one of those moves was instigated because of my husband moving, had an opportunity. So, came back, looked at it internally, and it was going to work out for me to also move to Ottawa at that time. So, yeah, so those things, they're not easy because there's a lot of coordination and they don't just fall in your lap, but yeah, the possibilities are definitely there. So.
Great. So I'm excited about getting into some questions that we prepared, but as well, we have about 560 people so far attending. So please, I urge you all, if you have any questions, to go ahead and ask, but I'll start with a good one. From your journey, what advice would you give women who are aspiring to break into the tech? And what did you face? What barriers did you face along the way?
It's very different, right? I think over time, it's changed so much. If I go back to when I started, it's a lot of years ago, and I won't tell you how many, but it's a lot of years. So, I started as a COBOL programmer. So just to give you an indication for those of you on the phone.
We still look for cobots, by the way.
I know it's a hot skill.
It's a hot skill.
It's a backup plan that I have is to go back and do some COBOL. Isn't that remarkable that we still have COBOL? I guess the advice that I would give, is that what the question was? The advice that I would give someone starting off in the tech field. Don't get too locked into any one thing. I think the environment is changing and technology is just changing at such a fast, rapid pace. Years ago, we used to call, a person year, and then they go, well, now a person year in IT is 9 months, and now a person year in IT is 6 months, and we saw those kind of technology advancements, and we were able to do things faster. Now it's changing so rapidly, and so don't put your feet in concrete on anything. Would be my recommendation. Try and find something that brings you joy. Would be obviously no matter what you're doing, whether it's in tech or anything else, but be open to change and be open to continually learning, so that you're helping yourself drive your career. You're setting your own direction, and you're navigating your own career as you go through. So obviously, that's not a very simple exercise to do. You don't just sit there and say, tomorrow I'm going to start, and I'll now work in AI, or I'll now be a data scientist, or I'll now be. It takes time, it takes planning, it takes investment for training, etc. But that would be I think one of the most important things is to remain open to change. Yeah.
And I think to add to that would be exposure, right? Expose yourself to different things, learn, so you can be more open.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's
exactly. Because I think, I was on the call you were on this morning with Marie-Claude for the French session, and she was mentioning that 85%, like if we look forward from today, so in the very near future, 85% of the jobs of the future aren't even defined today. They're not. We don't know what it is. And so it's difficult to say, well, this is what I think you should do. Here's the 3 things you should do to get to solidify and advance your career in tech. Might be 3 different things to add on to that list, in a year or 2 years. So yeah, stay open, stay flexible.
Well, just the thing, like everybody's talking about AI, but AI today is not the same AI we were talking about last year or the year before. It's not at all the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So one question that I think a lot of women have is, in your career, were you ever treated differently because you were a woman?
There was one time, so I would say in general, I have been fortunate, and I'll tell you why I think that is. It's because I think that what we need to do as women is focus first and foremost on doing a good job, on excelling at what we do. And because I did do a good job, and excel, we can not excel, but always brought my A game as much as I could to the table. So as soon as you start to deliver on your commitments, you start to meet the objectives, you're looked at differently. There's no question. I was fortunate, and I went through many years of my career, and it certainly was a male-dominated field. And we all know it's still a highly male-dominated field. But I was never treated differently because I was a woman, except one time. So it was before I was promoted to manager, and I was working in Ottawa. I won't say anything else because I can't mention the names. So
no, please don't.
I'll protect the names of I'll say the culprit. But so my manager was having my review with me one night, and my daughters, I have 2 daughters, and at the time I think they were 8, probably not even. I think they were 7 and 5 or 6 and 4. They're 2 years apart, so they were very young. And he said to me, you're going to have to make a choice. So, and I'm pretty shy, like I really am. So I'm like, wow, what does he mean I have to make a choice? Like, well, now what did I do? And he goes, you're going to reach a point where you're going to have to decide, are you a mother or do you want to have a career? And I just about fell off my chair. So I said, no, I think I'm going to do both. So he said, not many women can. I go, yeah, but I'm going to. So that was the only time in my career I ever had anything resembling that kind of conversation. And I count myself fortunate. So I don't think everyone could stand here and say that they felt that I don't think I've been passed over. If I have, I didn't know I was, and I was probably watching. I don't think I was the most ambitious person on any of the teams that I was on, but I was certainly wanted to strive to be the best. I mean, that was definitely one of those things. So I think I would have known if I had been, maybe. I don't know if I don't, I don't. But so that was the only time that I did. And I know through attending some of the CGI Women in Leadership meetings and calls and the lunch and learns that we've had over time, and the BAME lunch and learns, and you hear the stories and some of the discrimination that's happened, whether it's against women or any one of our diversity categories. So I've been really lucky.
Oh, good. Yeah. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for that. We have one question actually already from the crowd. What advice would you give to women who easily may feel the imposter syndrome?
Pardon?
Did you ever feel
it? I think we all do. I got promoted to CIO, and I can tell you that the day I took this job, I felt like I was sitting in the room going, here we go. This is another day of the imposter syndrome. And another day, another 2 years of the imposter syndrome. I still feel it some days where I go there and walk in the door and go, what were we thinking? I think what I would tell people, and I've had this conversation with a few folks over the years, men feel imposter syndrome as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not unique to us women, for sure. Men have the same insecurities, if you will. For us, though, I think as women, one of the things that we don't do well is we don't celebrate our successes. We're much more humble in general, I think, and I'm proud. I don't want to bash
ourselves too sometimes.
Yeah, so I think it's that. I think we probably don't give ourselves enough credit for what we do, and sometimes that's where that imposter syndrome comes in. And nobody's perfect at when they're engaging in a new task, a new function, a new job. So I think my advice would be, have faith in yourself. Yeah. Don't take on something where you really feel like you're a fish out of water and it's absolutely not up your alley. But if you believe in yourself and you have, and we'll probably touch on some of this other stuff. You have a network of people you can talk to, you've got a support system, then just tell that imposter to disappear because you've got this. Yeah.
No, definitely. I actually love to give an example, and it happened with you, by the way. When I started working with the client group that we were in the same, and I walked into a meeting, we were all virtual because it was COVID time, and I was trying to introduce a change and something different. And I was new there, right? I hadn't really met everyone in person because it was COVID. And I remember I was talking about a new process of how I wanted to get things done and really make a big change within the group of how we did things. And you sent me a text on the side saying, way to go, keep going, go for it, try, go. And I was like, yes, I don't feel like an imposter. I'll keep going.
That's what you have to do. Exactly. And that's the thing, right? I almost feel like the more times you've felt like an imposter, the more gold stars you have on the wall. No. Because you've taken a challenge, right? You've taken on a challenge. You've decided to step out of your comfort zone and do something that you're not sure you can do. Yeah. But just acknowledging that you feel like an imposter actually empowers you to go, okay, I know that I can do this, right? Okay. So it's almost like a badge of honor that, felt like.
And having people encourage you makes it that much better. Yeah. And I remember every time I tried to do something different, I would come to you, what do you think? How do you think I should angle this? Just to kind of help a little, right? So I did look at you as a mentor on some stuff. I'm like,
so fun. And my reference to men do have the same. We do feel it too. It's not just us. So one of my leaders in the past, one of my past leaders had so much respect. Great leader, had so many great qualities. And one day he said to me, Les, I think at any time someone's going to come walking through that door and go, we made a huge mistake. And I sat there and I went, are you kidding me? So maybe he was lying, but he certainly made it sound like he definitely had imposter syndrome. So
perfect. So one other question, a little related to this, but also the whole thing about women. I know I've struggled with it sometimes in the past, but how did you manage the balance, the work and the life? Yeah. That whole balance of what's the priority, right? When?
Well, and now it's easy for me because my children are grown. But I did start in a time when they weren't, and I was traveling for business. And so I think it's definitely possible. Yeah. You need help. So hopefully if you're in a relationship where you do have children, you have a partner that's helping you. And if you don't, then you have support system other than that. But even with a partner, you still need an extended support system, right? You need to also identify what things you can't do, right? You can't and maybe I'm not saying that right, but you can't do it all. And so how do you balance, how do you identify the things that you need to keep for yourself to do and the things that someone else can help you to get done?
Yeah.
And what ends up, if anything, really falling off. And I think if you don't get too kind of caught up in it, you're able to do this. You will be able to do it. You'll be able to get to the baseball games and the hockey games and deliver on your deliverables. In the tech field, and it's the only field I know, so I'm not sure about the others, but we have peaks and valleys also, right? So we have times where you're going to have to work a weekend, you're going to have to work overtime during the week, and then you may have that for a couple of weeks, and then you're going to have a little bit of a lull where it's going to be a lot more level. So the flexibility in how you plan your events and activities also with family and stuff, I think that's something you get used to and you start to plan around those peaks and valleys. Because to assume that we can flatline this on a, in tech, we work 8 hours a day, every day, 5 days a week, and that's what it is. That's not how it works. So, yeah. So I think that's one of the things is to try and remain open, also to adjusting to that curve, I guess.
And I think also being honest, right, with your leader and your team, and being able to even find some support within your team.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Great point. I didn't go on that side, but totally. Yeah, totally.
I tell my team all the time, family, yes, I understand. Let's do it. Let's organize. But as long as I know, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes last minute does happen as well. But let's work around it. Let's see what we can do and how we can work together to make sure we can get to the goal or to what we need to do.
Because we're all the same. Like to a certain degree, we're all the same. We all have something that we're trying to accomplish, outside of the office for sure. So if we can support each other internally to do that, then that's huge help. Good point. I should have said that for sure.
No,
yeah.
It's a partnership.
Yeah, there we go. We're collaborating.
There you go. Another question. How do you identify, how did you identify and seize career opportunities? And can you share some specific instances where you took the chance?
So, and I'll be totally, I guess, transparent. I don't know, honest. I'm so far been honest the whole time, so I'm not going to change that. But when people say that, let me be honest. I'm thinking, what happened in the past 3 sentences? We're going to turn on the honest button now. Okay, so let me be transparent. I think that a lot of times, several times, it's not so much a tech thing, but certainly from a leadership thing. As working for my manager, I would watch what the manager was doing, and I'm very influenced, and I learn a lot by watching people. I learn a lot in meetings. I'm always watching how people handle situations, how they handle questions, how they handle issues, right? Risks. And sometimes, depending on the situations you're in, you can learn a lot just by observing how leaders, how they collaborate together, how they don't, right? You learn the good and the bad. And I think seizing opportunities for me, part of it was, I think I can do that job. Because I certainly didn't start out, saying I'm going to be the CIO one day. I did not. That was not on my list. Did not start out that way. So, but over time, you kind of go, I can do his job. Right. And I could do that better. And because you're thinking I would do it this way instead of that way, because you're able to be objective. Whereas sometimes when you're the leader on the spot, you're not as objective as you'd like to be because you're under pressure. So that was one thing I found that helped, because I think as I went up in leadership and from a developer to a manager to a director to a VP, each time I can remember going through that thought process, I never thought I could be a VP, but I could do that. So it's, I think, being open and looking from a leadership perspective, that's one thing. From a tech perspective, it's really just staying current and looking at the things that are happening. Pivoting, I think, is something that people do quite often in the tech field, right? You pivot from one skill to another. You pivot from a technology to another technology. You take on a new role, a new scope. There's so many dimensions within this tech umbrella of what you can and can't do. I think that's part of the opportunity would be that, to stay open, to pivot, and to keep on making sure you're giving yourself enough credit And I repeat that a lot because just in general, we're not good at it. Women are not good at it. So give yourself credit for what you know and for your skills and strengths. The best example I have of that is it was a pivotal moment. I'm reusing the word pivotal moment in my career, but we were in Bell Sigma, so it was before we were acquired by CGI, and we had just created this project management as a role was really just starting to be defined. The PMI Institute, or the Project Management Institute, had just been created. They had a magazine called PMI, and so in Bell Sigma we had enrolled for a subscription. So there was a whole bunch of us, because it's a company of about 3,800 people, and there was a bunch of us on the list for the PMI subscription. So I was learning about project management, and this big project came up for Bell, huge project. And so Eva Maglis, some of you will know her. She was a female, very strong female leader in CGI when we got acquired after that for many, many years. She was a CIO at one point as well. But she had a client in Bell, and they were looking for a project manager for this quite complex cross-functional project. So they went to I don't think they realized it was a magazine subscription list, but that's where they went. They got the list of the project managers in CGI, which was this list of the subscriptions. Mm-hmm. And they called and they said, we're pulling you out of your job and we're putting you over here on this project. And it's like, I've never managed a project in my life. So, but I've read the magazines. So I can do this. So that was it. That was the start of my project management kind of tangent, which I really pretty much stayed on for a long time, because it is a big part of where I went after that. But yeah, and no tools, reading the magazines, trying to figure out how do you pull all of this together, cross-functional. So that was another, oh my God, they're going to come through the door and go, what? Wait, you were just subscribed to the magazine? So there's a major imposter syndrome thing going on for that one too. But I didn't say no, right? Mm-hmm. So if I look back in time, and believe me, for me to sit here and give myself credit, it's a big thing. We just don't. But that was a good move. It was a smart move. Yeah. Ooh. Tough job. It was a tough job, but yeah.
It was a good risk.
It was a good risk. It paid off.
So we have another question here. Let's see. What advice will you give someone that would make them stand out when looking for an opportunity for either an entry or mid-level position in tech? Yeah,
would make them stand out. I think it's experience at that point, from that perspective. So how you bring your experience into show your value, right? So it's not just, if we're looking at CVs or we're looking at candidates, we're not just comparing the words. It's not just about, I've got 5 years, I have this degree, I have this specialization, I'm certified Microsoft, I'm this and that. So, you take all the words and put them there, but how do you put your value proposition behind that? It's the same as we do when we're putting together proposals for clients. Mm-hmm. If you look at what the client's asking for, all the companies come in with the same, I'm meeting all 10 of the requirements, but we win by explaining what our value is, right? We take a long time to try and figure out how do we wrap our experience, the value, our other customers, put all of that together behind. It sounds a little complicated. I'm not trying to make it into like you're doing an RFP, but I think it's that. It's how do you show that dimension of yourself? Yeah. How do you put forward that dimension of yourself? So, even your break, whatever the break was, whether it's a break for family, a break for, you did something else, went into a different field, and now you're coming back, that adds value to you. It adds value to what you can bring to the table in any example. So
actually, that's the next question that we got from the crowd. What advice would you recommend you would offer to someone taking a break?
I had read it, so I was mixing up the two, but it's kind of the same thing, right? So you take a break, and now you're ready to re-enter. So I was mixing it up with the other one.
Oh, no, it's okay. But it's the same thing. Yeah. You're right.
It's kind of the same thing. Yeah. Both times you want to do your value proposition, because whether you're looking for a mid or entry level, right? Let's say you're one of 20 applying for the job, you're one of 5 applying for the job. What makes you different is all of that. And it's the same for the second question. You're right. The person on break. Yeah.
And also making sure you're demonstrating and bringing the value of your past experiences, even though it's not in the same field. So how do you find the relatability related to it, right?
Yeah.
And
And
then
ask someone for help with that, right? Like I'm
Yes.
sure as a recruiter, right? You can't, if you're just looking at it from your box, you see yourself as very one-dimensional. But
Mhm.
perhaps somebody else looking at your qualifications and your experience would be able to help you to formulate it into,
Mhm.
nice, yeah.
Definitely. And finding the value add, right? What's the value that you will add to that role, and demonstrating that to whoever you're meeting with, I think is very, very important.
Mhm.
Definitely. Okay, another question. Can you talk about a mentor or sponsor you had profound impact on your career, and how did they help you navigate through your career path?
Yeah. I had a lot of mentors, but
Mhm.
not formal mentors. So
Yeah.
the idea of having a formal mentor program is fairly new, and I don't think I've even ever had a formal mentor. So I've had a coach. So we were lucky enough in one of the organizations I was in, we had external coaching. That was great because it opened my eyes to the possibility of and to understanding the value of having someone else to talk to.
Mhm.
But I think when I look back, even though I didn't have formal mentors, as I mentioned earlier, I'm always watching people. And I learned so much from leaders that I was working with and around. From a tech perspective, just watching, because I worked with some awesome developers at the time, right? So even not just a leader, but your colleague beside you and how quickly they can get through a problem or debug or, work through the design, and you're going, how do they do that? And just watching them and then being able to kind of emulate them just to a degree to whatever you could take on and then do better that way. It wasn't the same though from a growth perspective on the technical side. I think watching the leaders that I had around me I had an awesome list of people that I had the opportunity to work for. So I think that helped. So they were more from a coaching, I guess, because they were formal relationships, but definitely was good for me. I don't think I had a real mentor. I
Mhm.
think right now I have I have quite a few people that I'm mentoring, and those relationships are two-way. So I benefit now from the relationships where I'm meeting with different people, both men and women in CGI. Most of them are in CGI.
Mhm.
So those relationships I think are quite beneficial for me now because it keeps you in touch with different perspectives and different organizations, right? I know one of the things we want to talk about is networking. It all kind of flows together, although it's very distinct. You can get a mentor, and we'll talk again about it, and hopefully before we're done, because it's important for you to have a mentor. But the mentor has to be someone that you can talk to.
Yeah.
It has to work. It has to be a two-way relationship. It has to have trust, because if you can't say what you want to say, how you want to say it, you're just going to be wasting time.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to establish trust. You need to have a rapport where you can just talk. It can't be too structured. At least for me, it can't, because then you'll because of schedules you'll end up failing. Right? It won't work.
And you
So
have to be also okay to hear sometimes what you don't want to hear, right? Because the
yeah,
mentor has to be able to be open and honest with you the way you are with them.
Yeah.
So if they do give you advice and you don't agree, if you don't do it, it's fine. But if you get upset about it, then you're like, well, no, you have to be able to take it.
yeah, no. So I didn't really have any one, but many. And I always look again, just lucky of right place, right time, kind of. But I'd work on projects that were red. So you go to a meeting to present your red project and the plan to take it back to green. Well, that meeting there were 6 projects being presented that were taking 6 red projects. I'm making it up now for the numbers, but
Yeah.
for example, the meeting gets scheduled, 6 projects have to present. They have to show what their getting to green plan is. Well, how better to learn than to watch those other 5 go through the story, right? So you weren't always allowed to be in the room, but when you were, it wasn't so that you could go back and go, my God, how the hell did they get into so much trouble? Sorry for the heck of did they get into trouble? But it was more like, oh, the advice that they got from so-and-so and the connection that they had to go and fix a network issue, or, always trying to pick up and learn from other people. and then you reset. You reset yourself after. So.
Oh, there's a question on mentor here. It says, any advice on how to find a mentor?
Good question. Do we have an official program? No way.
CGI, yes, we do.
Yeah,
we do actually have a mentoring program. Each BU within Canada, there is one across Canada, and then each BU also has one within. So director and above usually are there as mentors to mentee members, or so you can sign up, but a director and above also can put themselves as a mentee. So yes, within CGI, you definitely can. But if I would give the advice externally, ideally, usually a mentor is someone who I would see it as someone you can speak to, someone you could feel honest, like you said, Leslie, someone that you can ask for guidance, and you see them as someone who will provide you a neutral feedback on what is going on, but has the right intentions too, right? And wants to see you grow and understands where you want to go and tries. Like I've mentored some people, and it wasn't necessarily an industry that I was an expert in, but I tried, and I was trying to figure out different things to kind of help them, but used my experience to kind of help them. But yeah, that's how I did it. I don't know how about.
I think too, you to find a mentor, and so in CGI, Tatiana, you can go through the program. It's not Tatiana, whoever's asking the question. If you're outside of CGI, I think one of the things that's important is to establish your vision.
Yeah.
So where are you going with your career? What is it that you need now? Where are you in your career now? And what kind of conversations do you want to have with someone, right? Whose brain do you want to pick? Because you're not going to pick a mentor today that's going to be and they could be, because they could be a real good generalist and they're going to be your mentor forever. And that's awesome. Mm-hmm. Or you have some goals that you want to attain within the next year, 2 years, and they're important and they're time-based kind of. And okay, that one, I need someone with more of a technical bent, someone who's got more experience on technical, or someone who has more experience on organizational change, or, depending on where you're going, mm-hmm. you want to look for somebody who has different experiences to be able to bring the value to you. So I think that's important. And then looking around, and I would certainly say, don't be afraid to ask. The worst thing they can say is no. There's no harm. There'll be more respect from that person for just having asked them. Mm-hmm. It's certainly not a pain to be asked, especially now. I think, we often get asked. Sometimes it's a load thing and you just can't take on another one, but don't be afraid to ask. If you see someone that you think can help you, and you can start it out very casually, right? You don't have to give it a name. Mm-hmm. We can give it a name, but if it's better just to say, hey, would you mind if I set up a call with you? We can have a conversation and then see where that goes down the line. But that's what I would recommend.
I've done that in my past, but I need to pick your brain. Do you have a bit of time for me that we can chit chat and then run into something else? Yeah.
And then you have another meeting and you have another call, and next thing you know, it's really an informal mentoring program, and you're both getting something from it. So.
Oh, exactly.
Oh, that's good.
Okay. We have some questions on both ends here. Hold on, let me see. What would you recommend for someone that is coming into the IT industry from different backgrounds?
Yeah, I kind of would go back to that last conversation, right? And say, okay, depending on what your experience was. So if you're coming into IT from, certainly in CGI, first of all, we're a very broad company. And as you know, for those of you who are from CGI, you can pretty much work in any domain here. So you can be in communications, you can be in marketing, you can be in change management, organizational change management, business consulting. There's many different roles that you can take on in the company. If you're going specifically down the tech role, again, I would say, how does your past experience bring more value to you in the job? And it could be anything from, your past job, it was high stress. It was, lots of calls coming in. I'm making it up because I have no idea, but it was a high demand. You were metered on calls. And so you were able to perform. You did a great job. You were meeting the objectives there. And so you're coming into an environment that's probably not going to be that high stress on a constant basis, but you're able then to have the experience and know how to manage yourself through that kind of stress in the job. So applying those type of environmental learnings,
Mhm.
business learnings, how different companies that you worked for operate, and being able to bring that into. So let's say you were in banking, and now you're coming into tech, then you could work in the banking field in CGI and bring your experience in banking there.
Yeah.
Telecommunications, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, perfect. So I know we touched a little bit on networking. So how has networking contributed to your career success? And can you share some tips on effective building and leveraging a professional network?
I think I'm getting better now. I'm the worst networker. And because I am shy. So, I'm definitely not extroverted. And I watch people and they absolutely amaze me at how they create these networks. So you walk into a room and work a room. And always so impressed remembering people's names. I'm like, how do you do that? So much pressure. It's pressure I put on myself. It's not pressure that came from the outside, right? I put more pressure on myself that I had to perform at a certain level in any one of those networking opportunities. So I shied away from doing them. But I think it's a lot easier to get out and meet people than I certainly thought it was.
Yeah.
It still takes work. It's still work when you walk into a room. Let's say if you're going to an event, so whether it's a meeting of project managers or a meeting. What now there's probably a lot more online. Certainly there are in CGI as we go through Viva Engage with the different team meetings and different groups that you can join. That's all networking. We can join groups. You can learn more about different topics. They get very specific. You can join groups in the community. There's tech groups in the community. And I don't know what they all are. I just know that people are in them, and I've met people who have been going to different events. But you can also network outside of tech. So the people, the parents of the other kids on your kids' basketball team is a network, is part of your extended network. And as they're sitting there watching the game, watching the hockey game, watching that, you're talking, you can, suddenly you bring up work. Where do you work? I work here. Oh, I work here. And then suddenly you're talking, oh my God, how do you deal with this? And that's another form of networking. Then the next time something comes up, right, it's who you can call, who knows, who you can call, who you can talk to, who can help you, how can you help them? And it all kind of grows from there. But I would say, just in terms of advice, not to be afraid of it. For me, anyways, it's the way it was tough. Networking for me is like, oh my God, I can't do networking. And maybe it's one of those things too, where we give it a name and then all of a sudden it's a thing, as opposed to just being more natural. I don't know.
No, I agree. And then the other thing is, don't overdo it. I find at some point you're going everywhere, you're doing everything, you're everywhere, but it's hard to keep up. It will be hard to keep up, right? Yeah. So making sure that you're going to places, whether it's to improve ideally the role you are doing today or the role you want to go into in the future, right? Yeah. So if there's something that you're looking to become or want to be get more experience around, try to go to networking events that incur that, and that you can learn more from other people or other experts in that. I think that helps quite a bit. As a recruiter, we're always networking, right? My team is always.
I was going to say that. Absolutely, right?
But I'm not any better with names. I'm telling you right now. I don't remember.
I'm just horrible with that. I can remember phone numbers, and now we don't even get to do that anymore.
No. I remember faces. I cannot remember everyone's name. And my husband and I have this thing that when we go somewhere and someone says, "Hey, Sonia, how are you?" And if I don't introduce, he says, "Hi, so he knows that I forgot the name.
Good. Yeah, that's so good. But those are the tricks, right? And we have to teach each other those tricks, because instead of feeling bad, right? There's the little tricks. So it's hard, but it's a valuable thing. It's a valuable thing. So again, internally in CGI, your network of people that you reach out to, that you meet, that when you run into a problem, when you get in trouble, when you have an idea, the more people you can reach out to, informally or formally, the better, because you have help, right?
Yeah. And networking is anywhere you go. Last year, my husband and I, the kids, we went on vacation, and I had a bag and it said CGI, and we were on the beach, and someone comes up to me, "Oh my God, do you work at CGI?" And they start talking to me. My husband's like, "What?" and then it was a client of ours, and it was just so funny that they were looking for something. I referred them to one of our directors here. And then they spoke, and other clients. So it was perfect. It just happens. So sometimes you don't even
awesome.
have to look for it. It just happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the advice, if you're starting out, if you're beginning your career, is just, a network it's not a scary thing. It's the people you know, it's the people you can call, it's the people you can lean on. If you don't have enough of them, you can join associations, you can join events, you can go to events and grow that network. That's all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good. So again, a little reminder, if there's any questions, please put them in the chat and Leslie and I will get to them. I do have a few more.
We should have thought of questions for them.
You do?
No, I said we should have. I didn't think of any. I'll try and think of some now.
Could you provide insight into the qualities or experiences that you are looking for in a team member?
Oh, yeah.
Like what stands out for you? Like what is it that your team are like, oh yes, that quality is, and it could be based around value. It could be anything. So
I think bright.
Yes.
So yeah, and bright in many ways, right? It's just how you present yourself. It's a big thing. So you've got a light in your eyes, and you see it, right? You know when you meet someone who's engaged, and they're present, they're engaged. There's a light, and it's kind of like an aura. They shine, right? And you can. That's a remarkable difference. And from like when you're looking at people, sometimes it makes a big difference. And I think it comes with confidence as well, right? I don't think you can demonstrate that unless you're confident. I think curiosity is huge, especially in this field. And I'm sure everybody in every field says that, but in this field, curiosity, asking questions, if you're interviewing, asking questions to the company that you're joining. If you're looking at solutions, being curious about alternatives and looking for different ways to approach a problem instead of always lining up and doing things as the lemmings have always done them. So curiosity and why all the time, and then just passion, and I think it kind of links back to bright, but it's those are the things that I think make me gravitate to people faster. Yeah.
And that we value too, right? And so yes, the skill is there, but if there's the skill and all of that, all the better, right? You can't just be skill. There needs to be a part of that. And I think the one thing I would add too for me is honesty, right? I need to make sure that you've got my back, I've got, and we're there and we're working on it together. And if something is wrong, there's something wrong, right? If you raise the hand.
And I think it's been, we have a really good, a good machine inside for projects like the red yellows. And, we talk about honesty. It's important to declare things when they happen and to be open. And then you'll have the power of 92,000 people behind you to fix it. Right. But if you don't, if you conceal or you hide and you're protecting, because you're not doing it maliciously, no one ever does anything for the wrong reason. There's just sometimes a better way to do it. The better way is to declare and be honest. Or if there's a mistake you made, be honest, right? I think we're pretty forgiving and create a safe environment. We created, I'm hoping that we do. It's probably could use work in some places, but hope that we do a pretty good job of it, because that's the intention, is to create that safe environment. So honesty is huge. Yeah, honesty is huge for sure.
Yeah, and it defines the person's character, right? It kind of, if the honesty is there, the passion is there, the eagerness is there, the passion is there. If there's some skills that are missing, they can learn it. All of that is just going to help them.
Yeah, because exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then being like, because I think it goes, kind of connecting a few of the dots here, but back to imposter syndrome, and you don't have to have 100% of the requirement. You can have 89 and say I've got 89, but you're so confident in this 11%, which is XYZ, I'm going to go and get help to help me do that. And identifying it, right? Being honest about it with yourself first, because that obviously it starts there, but being honest about it first allows you then to say, okay, I'm going to go to my network, or I'm going to ask someone who can help me to go into their network and get me help on that.
or you add people also on your team, right? Like you as our CIO, right? You've got a team of experts that make sure you get this job done when needs to get done. There's no way that you're able to do each one, right? That's why you have the experts around and you're well surrounded by everyone. And that's how I see myself, my team as well, is I'm not an expert in everything, but I've got my team members, and I've hired specifically to have team members that can help me in the things that I'm not perfect at, right? And that we can make sure that we can deliver what we need to deliver.
Yeah, it's cool.
Perfect. Another question. What initiatives do you think are most critical for supporting the advancing of women in IT? Ooh, that's a good one. Events like this, I would say definitely, is one of the things that CGI is trying to do more and more to really expose women to IT, but also starting early on. I know you were involved quite a bit in the STEM program as well, where we're trying to get kids at the early age in school, but I'll let you.
But I think that's where I was going to go. It starts with STEM. I think it starts way back when they're, when they're young, and you go in with the robots and you get them excited. There's a book. What's it called? I'll look it up and put it in the chat if you give me a second, in a few minutes. But I'll tell you the story of this little book. So this guy who worked at Crayola, and he was like the vice president of creativity at Crayola. I don't know what his title was, but something. He wrote this book, and he went to tour elementary schools. He went into the kindergartens and he asked them, how many of you are artists? And every child in kindergarten put up their hand and said, I'm an artist, I'm an artist, I'm an artist. And then they talked and they played and they colored, and off he went to grade 2. He went to grade 2 and he said, how many of you are artists? And this time only about 80% of the kids put up their hand. The other 20 weren't artists anymore. And by the time he got up to the 6th grade, there were only 3 people that put up their hand. And so how I link that back to STEM is that if we go into those classes and we let those children, male and female, but the girls are there, play with the robots, and we do it continually, then they're going to be artists, and they'll end up having a better chance of being interested in tech, being interested in creativity, being interested in, because that's what it is, right? Tech is about creativity, and it is about applying engineering and understanding, but it's all you're always creating something. You're creating a program, you're creating a solution, you're creating something. And so I think it kind of ties back to there. So I think STEM program is important. I think in terms of an event, I think a woman supporting another woman, in tech, being there, being the sounding board, being the mentor, being the coach, being somebody to just stand beside them. I think that's an important event, and we all need to do it. We all need to support each other. We all need to support the young women who are coming up, to help them to be strong and not feel like they're imposters at any time. So. All of these events are important. So I think we do a great job. I think Les Essentiels and some of the other, across Canada, some of the other women in leadership programs are also good and helpful for sure.
Yeah, good. Okay. Oh, we got a question. With the rise of AI and it replacing certain processes, what would you recommend we turn our focus to as women in tech, and where should we expand our skills?
Well, AI would be one. And certainly, if you look, I think you kind of answered the question in the first part of it. Absolutely, that's an area to get into. AI is getting a lot of press. So we've been doing AI, around the world. AI has been in place for a very long time. But it's certainly within the last now year and a half or so has taken on a whole new level of speed and visibility and aware and talk. I'll say talk in the news and stuff. It's really just beginning. So there's so much more to do. And when you break AI down, there's so many different elements of AI. You can look into it and figure out, well, I'm going to go and specialize in this, or I'm going to specialize in that. So I think that would be one of my recommendations is take a look at it, take a course, read up on what AI is and see if there's any elements of it that interest you, and then start learning about it. Yeah, because that's for sure there's going to be work everywhere, but AI is a definite fun place to to dig into if you're looking for something new to do, for sure. And I say AI, AI is it's like saying tech, it's a very broad category. So yeah.
Just like security, right? Security is
exactly. That's a good point, right? Yeah.
Right? It's another, and it will never go away, and it's just going to get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good place to go to. Security, AI.
It's inevitable.
I think the other place, and it's not directly linked to tech, but it's organizational change around tech.
Yes.
So we struggle with that all the time, and our clients struggle with it. And so, if you're interested, if you like doing that, helping, because you need to understand the tech a little bit enough to be able to help figure out how to roll out change, how to design the change so that it can deliver the benefits that are coming through at the end. So it's another place that still AI or no AI is going to have to be continue to play a big role.
Yeah. And regardless of which IT section you go into, I think the most important part that you also have to keep into consideration is that, yes, there's the tech part, but don't forget that, I think we talked about it a little bit this morning as well, and earlier in this call too, is, that teamwork, that working together as a team, that honesty, that passion needs to be in there. If you're just doing the job to do the job and it's just step 1, step 2, step 3, then you're not going to be the one running,
One of the other things I should mention, it's not under AI, but certainly it's directly tied to it, is anything with respect to data, so data science, data engineering. That is absolutely a field that we need to get more experts in. We need to have people who understand, because in the end, it's the data that's important, and that's what's going to end up with all the changes that are going on around the world with respect to different regional decisions on where governments want their data stored, where they don't want it stored, understanding how to play in those sandboxes with the different constraints and requirements, and making sure that because data's just getting bigger too, right? So with AI, we're going to have more data, and so we better get a handle on what that data is, where it's sitting. Is it in the cloud? Is it on-prem? Is it in this country? Is it there? Where is it? And how are we able to reach out, grab it, and use it, and drive the value that the data is supposed to. So,
with the complexities of the law, right? So
that's at the beginning, yeah. So when you deal with all that, but definitely data science, data mining, data engineering, huge need for more of that. Yeah.
No, definitely. Leslie, thank you so much. Honestly, I really, really appreciated this. Was there anything else you wanted to ask or wanted to?
No, I think I do. I'll so I don't have anything to ask, but I'll leave, I guess, just a few points. We talked about them probably too much, too many times maybe, but find your voice would be my, you don't have to be the expert of all things, but as you're starting to make your place and to kind of set your ground, figure out what you want your voice to be at any given time. You don't have to be the expert on every subject. You don't have to talk to every subject, but pick one that's going to make that you can get into, that you can engage with, and that you can feel passionate about. Don't be afraid. So easier said than done, I know that, but don't be afraid to take a risk. Talk to people before you do it, but don't be afraid. Do your very best. Excel at what you're doing and deliver what you want, at what's being asked of you, so that you're always there for consideration, right? That's important. Be open to learning all the time, and take a bow and take credit for your success. So make sure that you recognize your success, and then make sure others do too, but start with yourself first.
Yeah. Appreciate yourself, right? We need to appreciate yourself.
Celebrate yourself. Yeah.
Not always with champagne, but every once in a while, that's good too.
That's good too.
So thank you so much, Leslie.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you so much.
And I hope everybody today enjoyed this session. And I do invite you all, please, to join us on March 13th and 14th for the CGI Women in Tech Career Lab, where you'll meet more amazing leaders talking about their experience and really providing extra tips and tools and different things that we do and how they work and how they function and how they're working with their teams. So I look forward to all of you, please, participating to that. There'll be a QR code at the end of this conversation where you can click on it and register for the event on the 13th and 14th. And again, happy International Women's Day.
Yeah, happy International Women's Day.
But it's on Friday, but we
Yes, right?
celebrate it all the time. It's for the whole month of March. I think we have something every week
Very
just to ensure that we're celebrating it and that we bring it forth.
All right.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Sonia.